Well, hello friends and family, so good to see you again. And here we are. And this is going to be a sort of different video. Yeah, something we haven't done before. And what you'll be seeing in the background is a little old man who's about to take a walk. This was sometimes past, because I haven't done this in a while. Why? Because for those of you who've been with the channel for any length of time know, I sort of had an accident back on April the 25th of this year. And yeah, it presented me with a life-threatening injury. One that within minutes of the arrival at the hospital, which I drove myself, yeah, if I hadn't, we probably wouldn't be having this discussion now. So I don't take the walks much anymore. Yeah, my children and my grandchildren, they worry about old Papo. And yep, because of what happened right here in the yard, me going out in the raw woods now with all those limbs and sticks that could trip the old man up, which is exactly what happened on that fateful day on April the 25th, when I tripped and fell on a stub that broke my ribs, punctured a lung, and nearly ended my life. But enough of that doom and gloom, which is something we'll talk a little bit of too. So yeah, I don't go out there much. Will I ever go again? Probably so, because it's just what Papo does, and they know that's true. But yeah, you know, the last few videos I've tried to present the facts. I've tried to educate based on the data and the reality not only I am facing here, where I try to show you my life and what I'm doing too. And then I always encourage all of you in the comments below the videos to share the facts and reality of your lives and what you're doing too to survive and to thrive. So a little bit about me, just in case you're new, or maybe you forgot since you've been with the channel a while, is that, yes, this is what the channel is all about. The channel's not about clicks or views, thumbs up or down. In fact, the only reason it exists, primarily, is for me to leave something behind for my children and my grandchildren. And now, my friends and family, which are many of you. Yes, you are. And I appreciate every last one. And you don't know the impact you've made in my life. Some of you do, but many of you don't. And see, I've learned so much from you. As I hope, in my own humble way, you've learned something from the little old man, the country engineer. Yeah, we don't do a whole lot anymore, like once we did, and that's just a fact of life. But, as you watch the background play, I know many of you like the write-abouts, which I haven't done in quite some time. Yeah, and that's just economic factors coming into play. And then of course, like I say, I don't wander in the woods since that fateful day. But what did I want to talk to you about today? Well, like I said, you know, my last few videos, which some of them have really resonated with you and have generated more views, even though I didn't do them for views, I present what I'm going to do. I'm not swayed by monetary reasons, agendas, or beliefs. And that's a fact. I'm not in it for the money, though any money that comes from YouTube is greatly appreciated too. I won't lie. This is sort of my second job right here. This is what, we get a little bit of income from me and the kitty group. And with that being said, as always, there's nothing else you need to do. You don't need to send me money, donations, or gifts. What I would like for you to do, which doesn't cost you a thing, YouTube, the last I knew, was free. And I don't charge a thing for these videos. And they're not free to me. Yeah, give it a thumbs up if you'd like to. Or if you just don't agree and don't care about another person's factual, educated opinions, give it a thumbs down if that's what you want to do. And share it if you really enjoyed it and think somebody else here would enjoy the videos too, whether they're about cooking, gardening, and what have you. I do a wide variety of videos. And, in looking back at some of the previous comments, though they weren't much, one person came on the comment section and said, every video I make is about doom and gloom. Even my cooking videos and gardening ones too. Well, I could tell right off he hadn't watched any videos I'd ever made. I just share the facts. If I'm having a bumper year in the gardens, I show you that. But I show you the tragedies too. And sadly, that's not what a lot of YouTube or social media does too. They show you the very best. And they leave out the rest. And that's not real life, people. And I think in our age bracket, we all know that to be true. So yes, that's a little bit about me. And here's a little bit more. Yes, I was a professional engineer for most of my life. Did I do a few other things that I don't often talk about? Yes, I did. I raised a family. Sometimes, or most of the times, as a single parent. And for a while, with a wife. That I don't often talk about. But anyway, I am an analytical kind of guy. That's what made me so successful as an engineer, among other things in my past life. I analyze everything. I just got to know the facts and the data that generated the facts, where it came from, whether it was true or false. Is it based in sound science, physics, and math? These things are the trade of a professional engineer. And I put them to the test in every aspect of my life, from finances to health to what have you. And these times are hard. Anybody who thinks they're not, and I'll tell you this, there's always going to be times in our lives where we're going to have a personal crisis, regardless of what it is. It could be an accident, financial, it could be regional, personal, national, or global. It's going to affect some or all, one way or another. And now that I'm in my retirement age and only got limited sources of income based on my health conditions and my reality, they're probably going to be different from you, and yours going to be different from mine. And there's always going to be winners and losers in life. Because whether it's financial, what have you, for some to win some got to lose. And that's a basic fact of life. But what I want to talk to you about today, after giving you a little bit of what I'm all about, so if you're still listening, is I'm not about the doom and gloom. Just presenting the facts. Presenting the reality, because I am a realist. I've learned over the 67 years of my life, and of course I was taught that from my father, which was the same, my grandfather, and my great-grand. The past 3 generations came through the hardest times this country has ever seen, and it would forever change and mold their lives. My great-grands and my grandparents could never pull out of it. They would spend the rest of their lives, like 1929 was still going on, the Great Depression, the Dust Bowl, World War II, and what have you. I think mostly because they feared if they didn't, it might be just around the corner once more. And that's always a constant threat. That Great Depression, that natural disaster, that global event, regardless of what it is. Could it be war? A meteor impact? A massive supervolcano? A giant earthquake? Tsunami? Or what have you? Just look at current events. But our crisis right now, for many, more than not, is the fact that we're seeing rampant inflation in all aspects, regardless of what the powers to be want us to believe. And yeah, I present how that's impacted my life, because I want you to know I'm right there with you. I'm not living high. And in that being, you share me how it's impacting yours, along with all types of suggestions and what we can do. And of course, always, we can rely on our faith. But as many know, we just can't sit on our butt and expect our God to take care of all things without us doing what we can too. Now that's my beliefs. Yours may be different from that. And that gets back to something else about old Mr. Tom. I've always been about personal choice. We each have that right. And we each have the ability to do as we wish, to have our own beliefs and opinions. It doesn't necessarily have to be right. So as we're walking through the woods today, quite some time ago, you know, times are hard. Am I sitting back on my butt and doing nothing? No. Like I've read in the comments below the recent videos, I've seen one thing we're all doing, at least here in our small community. We're making cutbacks, some to the bone. We're skipping our prescriptions. We're not buying them. Or we're taking them every other day. We're breaking pills in half. And that's all sad. Now some will say, get off all of that. All you need to do is eat right and take herbs. Well, I've been studying herbs since 1989 for different reasons. For a couple of personal tragedies in my life. And I would like to believe I have a very good foundation, not only in diet and the benefits of plants, which you know I've shared, the benefits of all kinds of things that we can eat when I cook and what they do for you. I've shared herbs, though not extensively, because the list goes on so long. Will they help some? A little, or maybe more? Yes, they will. Are they going to cure certain things? I'll tell you straight out. They won't, regardless of what some say here on YouTube. Their agendas are clear, in my mind. You see, that gets back to you got to look at whoever's telling you what they're getting from it themselves, how they're profiting from it, what their agenda is, what their beliefs are, and most importantly, in this day and age, how they're profiting from what they say and making money too. Yeah. So I'm seeing that. We all know about the food prices. In my mind, they're slap out crazy. And I've only seen this incredible rise that spikes so fast only one other time in my life. And that was during the late 70s throughout the 80s. And if you're my age or close to it or older, you lived that time too. Yes, we did. But then it went away. But looking at what's been happening this particular period of time, there's not one aspect of our life that hasn't went insane. Food prices, energy prices of all types, natural gas, electricity. They'll blame it on the rise of natural gas. But I can tell you today, natural gas prices are back to the level of the 1990s. And I can prove it to you too. And we've got all other things, gardening supplies, seeds and fertilizers, tools and what have you. Vehicle prices, tires, parts. The list just goes on and on. So what are people doing? They're cutting back on their food budgets. They're searching for cheaper things. They're cutting their meals. Just read the comments below any of the past videos and see. You got a lot of people out there that have said they've cut back to 2, and many more eat 1 meal a day in what was, once upon a time, the greatest nation in the world, America. We don't often call it that anymore. Yeah, we got winter coming on. And with the extreme increases in electricity, which I'm looking into right now too, which is what actually the backbone of this video is going to be about. You see, we all know the situation. It's impacting every aspect of our lives. And for many of you, as I've read through the comments, you cut way back to where there's no more cutting back. And you're fearful of what's going to happen in 2024. Because there's nothing left to cut. And that's sad. Now, I'm not there yet, but I'm approaching that point. And there's one thing about this little old man. See, I've never lost hope. That's the reason we're having this discussion. Because if I had a few times in my life, I would have never lived or survived. Because what happened on the 25th, it nearly took my life. A couple of events in my life nearly took it too. And without that hope, without that will to live, which I'll tell you right now, above all things, there's 2 things that you must hold on with a grip and never let go. In my mind, that is faith in my God and the will to live. And I've experienced both. I've seen people give up that will and die from things they should have not. And I've seen people cut in half, virtually, that didn't give up those, and they survived. Imagine that. I've seen it with my own two eyes. I've held them in my arms, in my hands. So never give up hope. You see, it's never hopeless. You got to remember, we boomers, as they call us, should start being the boom in the boomers again. For once in our lives, we made this great country. Every aspect of it that the people now enjoy, even though no credit's given for the advances in what we did. Only what they see is what we caused and shouldn't have. Of course, they're looking back at our time with what we know now, and the technology, and the things they have to do that too, when none of us had that at our disposal then. No, we couldn't look into the future. We didn't have supercomputers, phones that now equal the computing power of a country back in our time. No, we had books, we had slide rules, we had crank calculators, maybe ones that ran on batteries too. We had phones that hung on walls, no satellites in the air. But we made all that happen. And I can tell you as an engineer, I had a hand in many of those. But that's not brag or not something I care about. And some will say, then why are you having such a difficult time? Well, pardon me ladies, for my candid verbiage. And like many will figure out in life, no matter how well you plan, how well you invest, how well you eat, how well you do all that, there may be times in your life that shit happens. And can you recover? Maybe so. Maybe you can't. But in these times, we should not give up hope. Because we boomers, we got the time. And that's what I've tried to drive in to those around me, those within my close circle, even though it's rather small. Now in our retirement, we got the time to affect the change like we once did all our lives. You see, the current situation, and we all, I think, agree, whether you want to say it's corporations, the government, politicians, or what have you, all boils down to one word, and that's greed. I mean, this inflation thing, we were just rocking along, all nice and happy. And this inflation thing didn't take off in 2020. I can show that for a fact. It blew up like a tornado in a whirlwind in 2022. I mean, it was creeping up in 2021, and there were times, because of price gouging and scarcity, you know, that old supply and demand in 2020, because of supply chain breakdowns and what have you during the events of 2020, we all lived them and know them well. Yeah, caused people to panic, and prices for some goods went sky high. But then things normalized out as all that waned. and then boom-o. Especially during 2022, beginning thereof, just like a wildfire raging across the land. This insane inflation came to hand. I've looked at the charts. I've looked at the graphs. I've read thousands of articles because I read so fast. And that's all you'll hear about all the woes and the reasons why. I've showed you, like when I did that video about egg prices. When all mainstream media and social media too was blaming it on the avian flu. Yeah. When come to find out, and if you haven't watched that video, watch it to get to know what old Mr. Tom does, how he thinks, and how he dives deep to get the facts. And I proved. We had a much larger avian flu outbreak in 2018. And it only impacted egg prices 69 cents a dozen. But what we saw in 2022 was massive price increases, where egg prices went up from $5 to $7 to $12 in some areas for a dozen eggs. Never before in our lifetime have we ever seen such insanity. And then magically, and I don't know whether it was my video, but when I released the video, I'd already done my research and scanned all mainstream media and social media too. There was not one bringing out the fact that it really didn't have nothing to do with the avian flu. It had to do with corporate greed, and I presented those facts from the annual reports of one of the largest egg producers in the U.S. that was dancing in glee. They were raking in profits they had never seen. And what made it worse for this particular company, they were so grateful and bragging too, they had never seen one of their chickens die from the avian flu. And then magically, at the end of December of 2022, no more chickens died anywhere in the U.S. And you can check that fact on the CDC website, because I did. But I'll tell you this, a couple of weeks after I released that video, others, whether they seen mine or they were digging deep too, they approached the FTC. Not only some individuals like me, but some organizations too, complaining, getting lawyers, and threatening lawsuits, not only against the egg producers, but the FCT too. You know, the FTC is the Federal Trade Commission, part of our lovely federal government. It is. You see, sometimes a solution and a change to a problem, it always starts with one. But nothing is ever changed. No movement ever becomes victorious. No war ever stopped. No calamity ever stopped, or what have you, with just one. But that one can start the ball rolling if others will get behind him or her. And the multitudes multiply. It's sort of like a snowball rolling down the hill. So with all this said, and I know that was a rather lengthy description, but I wanted to tell you a little bit about me, how I think, and what I do. And yeah, I'm not laying down. I'm not giving up the fight. And what I've been up to the last couple of days is looking into something that impacts me deeply, and many of you. And that is the high price of energy. Now, there's not much I can do about the high price of gasoline oil, and what have you. But there is one thing I can do, especially in my state, and that is digging deep to why my rates for my electricity have went up so much. And just here in the last day or two, I found out that my beloved Alabama Power, that used to be so cheap, one of the cheapest in the nation, which now no longer it is, it's actually in the top 3 highest in the U.S. and only second in the Southeast to Florida. Yes, it is. And as many of you know, because I talked about this when I shared my electric bill with you some time back and everything, and that we had 3 rate increases in 2022 from July on, and a 4th in January of 2023. Never before in my lifetime have I ever seen an electric company do anything like that, regardless of which one it was, let alone Alabama Power, which has supplied me with power for going on 28 years now. In fact, prior to all this insanity, the last rate increase, as I showed you back then, that was approved by our Public Service Commission, which is an elected panel of 3. Yes, they're elected, and apparently they've forgotten that. They're supposed to be on our side, not the electric companies, the water companies, and the gas companies, and what have you. But apparently they've forgotten that. And now our electric costs are in the top 3 in the nation. Second, like I say, to only Florida. So yesterday, because I'm not giving up, I don't want to freeze this winter, but I will if I have to. I'll be chilly, but that's what they made sweatshirts and sweaters and sweatpants and thermals too, because in all honesty, I can remember my grandparents doing much the same, setting their thermostats to 45 and 50. Well, except when we visited them, like, you know, we parents do and grandparents. We may be really chilly before the grandkids come, and we'll make it all roasty and toasty and bright. So they're not discomforted, which is something we all did for our children too. But yeah, I got to digging into all of what they said in their press releases. I wrote it all down. And then I contacted my local customer service for Alabama Power too. And it took me over 44 minutes of waiting on hold to finally get to a customer service representative. And you know what? They do that on purpose, hoping you just give up. But I finally got one. And I wanted to ask 2 different questions. One was a multi-question and one was not. Because see, I should have had in my October bill a rebate, because our lovely Public Service Commission did charge Alabama Power last year with an overcharge, saying they overcharged customers $62 million, and they had to give it back. So Alabama Power, they went ahead and said, okay, we'll give that next year. Then give it to us right back. Granted, they posted profits of 38% for 2022. Imagine that. Yeah. And they gave dividends. Well, their parent company did, because see, they're a subsidiary of a much larger energy conglomerate called Southern Company, which controls pretty much all aspects of your energy in the Southeast. Yes, it does. Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and some other places too. So yeah, there you go. And you might think, well, see there, Mr. Tom, you got a rebate. What are you crying about now? You know, that was sort of like giving us a piece of bread when the power company got the rest of the loaf. You know, I'd already done my calculations, looked back at my power costs from this year to last and the year before. Already knew the percentages had rose. And what Alabama Power had said in the first rate increase, that was a fuel surcharge, an upcharge, because natural gas had quadrupled. Now that was true, because I looked into it. But then, the other two rate increases, this is what they said. Well, it'd only go up $6 on the average bill. The next one was, oh, it's only going to affect you $7 more on the average bill. And they really never said what they were for. As they never said, actually, from the PSC or Alabama Power, what the fourth one was for. Now, granted, our Public Service Commission is supposed to conduct hearings with Alabama Power and the public too on exactly what reasons that Alabama Power's wanting to raise the rates for whatever reason and get the public's input. Simple, right? You think that'd be a good thing. But they didn't do that, even though that's in their charter. How come that didn't happen? And I want to know. So during my conversation with this customer service representative at Alabama Power, you know, and this is all about how we fight back. You know, I wanted to know, and I had a list. Why didn't I see my rebate this month? He said, well, actually, it was paid in August, which I might add was my highest ever in my lifetime power bill. Nothing's ever come close. $295 for this little tiny house with one man and a cat. And if you think I'm sitting here with all the lights on at night, everything blaring and going, you'd be wrong. If you were to drive by my house at night, you would think I'd went to bed when the sun went down. Yeah, you all seen my cooking videos. You see that one little light above the stove. It's a 15-watt LED. No, it don't even do much. My air is set to 78 degrees, which never comes on at night. Yeah, I got a refrigerator, which I've already downsized my fridge one time before when the last one died. I cut it in half. Yeah, I had a nearly 30 cubic foot, you know, it had more doors, you know, to a 15 cubic feet, because it's just most of the times me. And smaller should save money, don't you think? I only do laundry once a month, where I used to do it every week. And when the family was here, that thing was going all the time. So yeah, I'm living in the dark. I'm trying to cut back air conditioning to the minimum I can stand based on the fact that I have COPD and emphysema and what have you. Can't go much more. Well, I can, but my life will suck. As I'm sure, you know, as reading the comments from many of yours, you're already right there. There's not much more to cut, and that's why I'm saying. You see, I've decided to stand up. So I went and pulled up my bill while he and I were on their website, and sure enough, they gave me this. Well, I didn't see it. It was on the back page. Yeah. even though I got a rebate, because apparently the PSC said they overcharged us by $62 million for 1.5 million customers, both residential and business, and you guess who made out like a bandit on that. And I'll just give you 3 guesses you can put in the comment below, and if you don't guess it, then I don't think there's no hope for you. It wasn't the residential customers, let me just say that. So, it didn't even make much of an impact, except I would have broke 300, I'm sure. Never before in my lifetime, and I've had much larger houses. Trust me, I have. So, I said, okay, I see it now. Peace. I get you. Then I asked them, okay, let's talk about these increases that never before in my lifetime, the history of Alabama Power, ever have happened before. You could hear the cringe in his voice. So I asked him what the first one was in 2022. Of course, he jumped right on it. That was for the fuel surcharge. Natural gas more than quadrupled. I said, well, that's true. But we'll get back to that in a minute, son. He was a young man. I could tell by his voice on the phone. I asked him what the second one was. And he started off, well, that was for a kilowatt rate increase, which that used to say on the old PSC website, all kilowatt increases had to be approved by the PSC. And I said, that didn't happen. There was no PSC notice, no hearings, or what have you. Of course, he admitted, oh, I don't know about all that. I can just tell you what happened. And I said, okay, peace. I said, you know, I'm writing it all down. So we went to the third one in 2022. And I asked him, well, what was that one for? Because there was no notices except press releases that how it was going to affect our bill and how much. And he him-hawed around. He was looking, I guess, or doing whatever they do behind the scenes in customer service there. And I said, well, what's the deal? Well, Mr. Himes, I really don't know. Now, that's never a good thing. And he wasn't in India or Pakistan, the Dominican Republic or a call center. He was right there. He works for Alabama Power too. He was American. I said, you don't know. You do work for Alabama. Oh, yeah. I'm right here in the state, just like you. But that, I can't find that information, and it's not available to me. So you, as customer service for the company, don't know. No, sir, I don't. Okay. You know this all affects you, right? Yes, sir. I live here too. Which I just gave him a little bone at that time, and I said, I understand. You're just making a living too. So then I said, well, let's talk about the last one, the fourth one. That happened and went into effect in January of 2023. Yes, sir. What was that one for? And some time went on. I could hear some fingers dancing on the keys. I said, well, at this time, sir, I just don't have information on that one either. I really can't tell you why. I said, son, really? Who would I call? Well, and he had said this a time or two, well, you need to refer to the PSC. Now, understand, our power company, and if you have a public service commission in your state, I'm sure it works the same way, they have to write up a notice of increase and a reason why in detail and send it to the PSC. Yeah. And then the PSC reviews it. They're supposed to call a hearing where Alabama Power has to attend, and the public too is invited, and have a hearing. Of course, I've already told you that never happened. They just blank checked it on through. And I told them, well, that gets back to an interesting point why I'm here with you. See, son, I've already been there. And they don't got anything on there. As luck would have it, they recently made a new website too. That you can't find no past notices from them, which they used to have on their site. Because before I showed you my electric bill and everything about it, and when the last rate increase was approved by the PSC, I think I even showed it to you. It was from 2011. And that increased notice was from the PSC, from their website. But you won't find it now. You won't find anything. They got press releases about all kinds of dumb junk, but nothing about notices for increases, none of that. You see, it was after that I explained to them a little bit. I said, you know, this is affecting disabled, seniors, low income, the working poor, and the middle class extremely hard. Yes, sir, I understand that. And it affects you, your family, friends too. Yes, sir, I'm aware of that. But I understand your pain. You got to make a living. This is how you do it. Yes, sir, I do. And I said, well, before I leave you, is there anybody in your management that you can direct me to that can answer these questions? Really, there's not. I said, there's nobody there standing around. There's no manager in that office right now that you can transfer me to. Not really, sir. I said, okay, I understand your position, and I don't blame you. But then I said, well, this call was recorded, right? He said, oh yeah. I said, I know it was, because you warned me before I started. So, I want your management to know this is not the end of this. I'm going to dig, and I'm going to dig. And I'm going to find out the reasons why. And I'm going to dig into why the PSC no longer does their job and the reasons why. Okay? So maybe after we hang up the phone, you might want to tell them the experience you've had, and they might want to give it a listen. Because this little old man isn't giving up on this. Because we just can't take no more. Yes, sir. I understand. And I bid him goodbye. Have a great day, and God bless you. So why did I want to share all of that? Now I can share you the details on another video of what has happened as far as my power rates. And there's also, even after I deduct my cost per kilowatt hour and my base rate, there's still this magical amount of $47.68 that shouldn't be there. It has no itemization on my bill. And see, that's why I wanted to get all the facts of what my kilowatt hour rates were, what they were for, and I'll just share a little of that now in case you don't want to watch a detailed video of my electric power bill and how it came to be. And here in my area, Alabama Power, is who we got. There's no other choice. And what they do is they break it up. And for your first 750 watts, you have to pay one rate. And then anything over that, you have to pay another rate. You see, they give you a little break. You know, they put that carrot out in front of your nose. So for the first 750 watts, you pay 12.4384 cents. Basically 12.5 cents, rounded off. And then anything over 750 kilowatt hours, you pay 11.25 cents per kilowatt hour. But on top of that, your usage, you got to pay a standard, everybody does, just for the, privilege of buying their power, which is insane. Base rate of $14.50. But when I added all that up and minused it from the bill, and I took off another thing that's on our bills, maybe on yours too, Alabama charges a certain amount of money for what they call a utility tax. So yes, actually, you got to pay a state tax on the cost of your power and your gas and your water and all that. Maybe your state doesn't. Maybe it does. Maybe you'll let me know how these rates per kilowatt hour and the base rate and the tax are in your states too. This is how you can inform Mr. Tom and all of our community just what's happening to you, so we can relate. That's what makes this community so great. We participate. So yeah, when I minused it all off, there's still $47.68 that's not accounted for on my bill. And I'm wanting to know why. And I'm going to find out why. Now, next step up is to press the PSC. But here's the thing. It ain't only Mr. Tom that's tried to go after Alabama Power in the last 2 years. There's been a couple of newspapers that have went. And they were just totally cut off. Alabama Power wouldn't talk to them, and neither would the PSC. Yeah, that's a fact. Now, how can that happen in America? It happens because we, I, and you allow it to happen. And you might be saying, oh, Mr. Tom, you go after a power company, they'll cut you off. They'll sue you. Well, maybe they will. They can't get blood out of a stone. No, they can't. They want to piss their money away to try to block what I'm saying and cause harm to me. Well, I still got a few friends in certain places they might not like to see. But this is the whole point to this, is not the fact that little old Mr. Tom is fighting the utilities company. And just like I did with the eggs, I'm going to get to the bottom of this one way or another. You know. The whole point of this is we're faced with reality. We can sit back and cut and cut and cut until we destroy our lives, or we can pull ourselves up by our belt, pull our socks up, and put on our big boy fighting boots, and we can fight back. And I'm going to tell you what, there's 32% of us boomers out there still alive. We were this country, and we primarily made it what it is today. I don't know how we lost that, but I think everybody should strive to get it back. Because if we all stand up, and I want you to think about all the historic movements in our past during our lifetime. Yeah, it started with one person. And I don't care who it is, me or one of you. But if enough of us, and that's the key, if enough of us, not 10, not 100, not 1,000, but the multitudes more, start going after these people, taking that time where we're sitting in our recliners or on our couch or consuming YouTube, watching, things we can no longer do and afford, for entertainment value, start fighting back, using our time efficiently. I know, because once we made a difference, and we can make a difference again, we can make our children and our grandchildren proud again. But in the end, I'm not doing it for the multitudes. Primarily, you're right, I'm doing it for me. And in so doing, yes, I am doing it for my children, my grandchildren, and now all of you. And that was the primary reason for the video. And I left it to later on, because many won't make it this far. And they're the ones that are either giving up hope, or are too lazy, or don't care to do a thing. And that's just stating slap facts. They don't like it, they can give me a thumbs down. I don't care. But yes, friends and family, my children and grandchildren, and maybe all of yours, now's the time to make a difference. We can start with our power companies, our gas companies, and they'll see the tsunami rise. Yes, they will. We can start reading annual reports and exposing the truth to the glee and the joy. They're dancing in their corporate offices too. And I'll tell you something about that. Some of them have learned what happens when you don't camouflage that all in your annual report, like what I exposed by the leading egg producer. They was more than happy to blatantly say they were basically effing us all too. So now they do things like make massive buybacks of their stock. Yeah, you know what that does? That takes all that profits and cash and buys their stock back, which each one is cash too. Remember if you just bought Walmart back in the past? It's just a way of banking your cash. The rich do it all the time, and corporations too. Yeah, it may go up a little, may go down. But you've taken all that liquidatable profit and turning it into a tangible asset. And they buy all kinds of things like land, corporations, and what have you, to consume the profit that they insanely made this year. And then they can say, oh, in 2022, we barely made a dime. If you don't know how to read that annual report, thankfully I do, because I've had to make a few for my own companies that I've owned. So yes, my friends and family, these are hard times that are among us, but we just can't lay down and depend on God. He's got our backs, but He's also expecting us to do everything we can. He always has. And that's what I encourage each and every one of you to do. I hope you'll join me. If you're tired of energy prices, especially electric, gas, fuel oil, oh wait, it's coming winter. You're about to get screwed. Propane. Look at what is going on in the commodities market, which might surprise you, and see what you're paying for it. If that don't piss you off, nothing ever will. So with all that said, as we walk in the woods, well, Mr. Tom's going to bid you adieu. And if you've liked the video, whether you just turned off me running my mouth and took a walk with me, which many of you might, and that's why I did it this way. Some like to just walk and be oblivious to the world. Turn on some soothing music, maybe Bob Denver, or what have you. I don't mind. I try to do what I can for all of us here. So yeah, I'm not giving up the fight, and I've never give up hope in all my life. And I've fought many battles in it, and I won't go into all that. Some I won, some I lost. But were they all worth the fight? Excuse me again, ladies. You bet your ass they were. And would I do them again? In a heartbeat if I could. So yeah, I hope you all think about this, digest it seriously before you give a thumbs down or a thumbs up. Not that it makes a whole big difference in the whole scheme of things. And if you think others need to hear this tonight and to spur them on, then I'd ask you to share. Like I always say, if you know somebody that will appreciate the content, be educated or learn something too, or just be entertained about a little old country engineer, share it. Invite them into our community too. You see, I can do a lot of things, but I can't grow this channel and make it more than it is without each and every one of you. So y'all, have a wonderful night. Stay safe out there. Take care. Live the best you can with what you got. Do whatever you can to make it better. And share what you're doing in the comments below the video. Because it all helps each and every one of us more than you know. It takes a little time to let your fingers dance upon the keys and think about it this way. That few minutes you spent might change your life. So yeah, until I, Spooky, Speedy, Cleo, Miss Crunchy, Krusty, sometimes the elusive Heathcliff, and her puffy fluffy muffin, see you too, with the Princess Gracie, Queen of the House, on that next episode of Mr. Tom's Neighborhood. May God bless you all. And goodbye for now.